Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to me, your host, Christian Watson. So, my friends, earlier this week, Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, made a rather stunning proclamation, or I suppose I shouldn't use the word stunning universally, because there are some individuals who were quite stunned by her proclamation, and then there were other individuals, like me, who weren't necessarily stunned, but disappointed. Then there were other individuals, like those who harbor Lightfoot's ideology and worldview, who were not stunned, or perhaps they were stunned, but because a elected official was actually willing to call out systems of oppression and inequity in those systems of which supposedly benefits from. Now, those are the three perspectives that I think one could have, and there are plenty more, but the point is this. There was some level of surprise or disappointment somewhere on that spectrum. And so I was quite disappointed, and I thought to myself, okay, what exactly is she basing her presuppositions in? And of course, when she made this, Tulsi Gabbard, the congresswoman from Hawaii, called her an anti-white racist, and that set off a spark of a flurry of both anger and approbation from different people. And Lightfoot has also gotten accolades from people on the woke side as well, who are happy that she is doing this. In fact, a person from the Chicago Press Corps went on CNN and actually explained that this was a necessary move and no one should be alarmed, which kind of boggles the mind, because isn't the press corps supposed to be somewhat neutral? I suppose that aspect of journalism has fallen to the wayside and they have no even the presumption of neutrality anymore. However, my friends, I want to focus on the philosophical basis for Lightfoot's decisions. Because let's be honest about something. You can look at something like Gabbard did and call it racist and have absolutely no effect on how someone else's mind perceives the issue, or no effect on the intellectual advancement of that issue. What do I mean? If I have a certain idea of racism, and a critical race theory person has a certain idea of racism, and both of them have the same name, racism, but are different, if I say that's racist to them, they will say no, because you're operating from a false idea of racism, and vice versa. So I find it very dismissive and anti-intellectual when people say, well, critical race theory is racist. Okay, great, it's racist, but what the hell does that mean insofar as the intellectual advancement of the contentions against critical race theory? It means absolutely nothing, because you're operating from two different paradigms. So the intellectual will say, all right, what can we do to demonstrate how one paradigm is more superior or more inferior than the other? And that's what I'm going to do here right now. So, Lori Lightfoot said to justify this, following quote, "It's a shame that in 2021, the City Hall press corps is overwhelmingly white in a city where more than half of the city identifies as a Black, Latino, Asian American, or Pacific Islander, or late Native American." So essentially, what she's saying is that, and she also mentioned Maleness as well. Hold on. She mentioned Maleness as well. I'm not sure what's in this article, but she mentioned the idea that it's overwhelmingly white and overwhelmingly male as well. So there's a few dimensions to Lightfoot's critique. It's that the press corps is not being representative of the whole of Chicago. Now, before I even explain the philosophy behind this, let me just say it's a simple matter of logic. What need is there for a press corps, which is a very certain sector of society that is confined and limited by a speciality, to be indicative of a general population, many of whom share different specialities in different professions than that of the press corps? What is the causal link there? To me, there is no A is B is C there. It appears as if she's taking A and taking Z and not even telling me how A and Z connect. This is Lightfoot. But instead saying A and Z must happen. So to propose that a majority of a certain place looks like this, and that this profession must be this, simply would mean to say that you're basing nothing off of the constitution, the composition of a certain profession, then the color of the people in it. And isn't that utterly reductive? So not only is Lightfoot being illogical in saying, well, the city has this many people, therefore this kind of people should be represented, because guess what? Not all kinds of people equally like the same specialties. People are not monoliths. People are not hive minds. People are individuals, brilliant individuals who, as Walt Whitman said, contain multitudes. That's one thing. But there's something a little bit more pernicious about what Lightfoot's doing here. So when she says there's an overwhelming majority of white people here, and males, she said maleness as well, and males. In fact, she said right here, there are overwhelming whiteness and maleness of Chicago media outlets, editorial boards, and the political press corps. She said that she was upset about that. She's basically making a critique from equity. And equity, my friends, is not a very good lens to use for a few particular reasons. When you say equity, when you say there's not enough X here, you are saying that because you operate from a system in which X has been systemically disadvantaged because of whatever event might have occurred or whatever opportunities they may not have had. And so, the idea of equity really doesn't look at the actual fill that is meant to that is trying to see. It doesn't actually look at or consider the moral conditions that give birth to circumstances, nor does it really even care about the historical nuances that give birth to circumstances. Equity looks at quantity. It doesn't tell me exactly every single thing or most things that would be advantageous for someone to know if they want to know why the quantity is that way. It doesn't tell me under which moral circumstances or which moral conditions does that quantity arise. In particular, it does give me broad, generalized things of racism and systemic shutting out of people who want to get into certain fields. But again, if that was the case that Lightfoot was going to make, she would have to provide me some evidence, of which she has not, other than simply saying not enough people who look like me are in the press corps, which is not evidence of racism or systemic people being shut out of the system. It may be evidence of a different amount of interest in some people. It may be evidence of a waning media market in Chicago. It may be evidence of many things. But the problem is, equity simply says there is a quantity there, and that quantity is not enough. It doesn't tell me why that quantity is not morally enough. It doesn't tell me historically. It just tells me that quantity is not enough. So it is both a historically dubious ideology, and it is both morally impotent. If you cannot tell me about the moral conditions of a certain set of things that did not appeal to broad generalizations, then you have no grasp of the morality or the immorality of a certain thing, and therefore you have no case for a moral argument. Lightfoot is trying to make a moral argument, but she is failing miserably. And if you cannot tell me the complexities of why a certain thing is how it is, even if you have a paradigm that things are how they are because of racism, if you can't even tell me, how that exactly plays into the disparity you're seeing, then you also have a historically ignorant paradigm as well. So regardless of where Lightfoot is going, she is doing something shameful by simply trying to impose her own preferences upon the constitution of a body that actually is inherently unconcerned with her own preferences. This may be news to Miss Lightfoot, but there are plenty of professions in which the disparities can be shown simply through different interests. Lori Lightfoot, do you have no shame? You are using a morally impotent and a historically ignorant ideology to analyze an issue that probably has nothing to do with race and everything to do with how you think the city of Chicago's journalists should be reflected. And furthermore, Lori Lightfoot, do you have no shame for reducing every single black journalist as being a favorable voice to talk to without actually paying attention to if that black journalist is worth a hoot or not? Lori Lightfoot, do you have no shame for eschewing logic and the laws of logic on your warpath to wokeness, which simply seeks to appease a certain sector of the electorate and has absolutely no adherence to logical inquiry or truth? Lori Lightfoot, do you have no shame to dismiss a journalist who's asking you questions about your proposal and saying my proposal is based in facts, without actually doing the stuff that facts require to be substantiated? Lori Lightfoot, do you have no shame? I feel bad for you. I feel bad for your proposal. And I feel bad for whatever journalist in Chicago is subject to your Gnosticism, because you seek to impose this heavenly idea upon the journalistic field that may or may not even be necessary and may go against the preferences of the very same people you claim and need to be represented. Lori Lightfoot, I encourage you to embrace intellectualism, embrace discovery, and leave your simplified ideology behind. Think on it. As always, my friends, I love you. If you want to support me, patreon.com/officialcwatson or PayPal, officialcwatson@gmail.com. I love you guys so much, and please, you better stay pensive. Bye.